Hey, thanks for opening the training here on our Zoom policy, which is video meetings. Um, Zoom is a tool that we use for video meetings sometimes internally because it's necessary for us to interact with each other and have a back and forth conversation or a meeting with a back and forth nature. So this is the type of meeting where we already determined basically that email isn't really working to get something done, maybe with private communication, or there's lots of chatter and ClickUp that doesn't seem to be getting something done. It's clear that somebody needs help with something where screens need to be shared normally, where they need to share their screen. You may need to share your screen and demonstrate something. And maybe there's a deadline where a common objective needs to be reached, and it's just imperative that a meeting happen. Now, meetings should not be used where a Loom video could be used, where you can record a Loom video and simply screen share and describe something and send a Loom. Loom.com is what we commonly use. It's a free software where you can simply record your screen and talk to it to go ahead and send a message. So ensure that you've already exhausted other communication resources, or if like Loom is a good option, you should not be scheduling Zoom meetings internally where you can just send a Loom screen recording video to show something. Okay, that's a demonstration. Usually Zoom is required where a back and forth conversation needs to happen. And you need to see their screen and then they need to see your screen. Okay, and that sort of thing. So Zoom meetings are very rare. We don't do them a lot. And so you shouldn't be scheduling a lot of Zoom meetings or any at all for internal use. For client services, we do use Zoom a little bit more so that we're client facing on Zoom because it's a higher touch level of customer care and client care. But internally, we rarely really have the need for Zoom meetings. Sometimes if you're interacting with our vendors, you may find it necessary to have a Zoom meeting with a vendor where a vendor needs to meet with you possibly. But again, if you can send them a Loom screen recording showing them something, or you can simply describe something in a message, that's what you need to do, because scheduling Zoom meetings is very time consumptive. It's not just the length of the Zoom meeting, it's working it into blocking off your schedule. It's them blocking off their schedule. It's having the meeting and then it's debriefing after the meeting because there's always follow-up. So when a Zoom meeting happens, there should be a designated leader for the meeting. Okay, that means that if you're the one setting up the meeting, you're the one that's going to lead it usually. And we have a basic meeting agenda format. It's a very basic form. I have it here in the training, so you can just simply use that. But this is because you need to make sure you have a plan for the meeting beforehand. So you need to look at this agenda, fill out one for yourself, or just make sure you have it in advance. You're talking about writing, here maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences or something like that. But you need to make sure you have an agenda to set forth. You're going to lead the meeting. You're going to ask for feedback, maybe do research on the call if you need to look something up and show people resources, that sort of thing. You need to be responsible for the meeting. If you're scheduling meetings with people and you don't really know what the purpose of the meeting is, then you shouldn't be scheduling it. Okay. So all parties need to be aware of the agenda beforehand. So if you're setting up a Zoom meeting, you need to make sure that if it's scheduled in Google Calendar, your agenda is attached to that meeting. In the Google Calendar event, you can attach it as an attachment, or you can put it in the description of the meeting. But you need to make everyone aware of the agenda for the meeting, what the purpose is, so they know what's going on with the meeting beforehand. Okay, don't schedule internal Zoom meetings for longer than 15 minutes. You shouldn't have to make a meeting more than 15 minutes in many cases for the purposes of what we do internally, because we communicate so much within ClickUp, and we can send each other Loom videos or screen recording videos with Loom. It really shouldn't be necessary. If it does happen, it should be an exceptional circumstance, like where there's something very intensive happening or difficult that we're trying to achieve for a client, but it's not normal. Zoom meetings, generally speaking, should be less than 15 minutes. They should be a to-the-point call. Okay, long Zoom meetings are not needed because we leverage the other tools. So be friendly. Don't be disrespectful. when you're on the call. This is really important. Just make sure that you have a friendly tone. So obviously we want to be concise, and we do want to be aware of the time for the Zoom meeting to make sure that we have, that we're not taking it too long or anything like that, but be friendly, be warm and courteous. That's always important. So your camera use is required when using Zoom in our organization. This is to encourage engagement and interaction. So you need to make sure you're presentable. Make sure that you haven't just woken up from a nap, for example. If you have a scheduled meeting, you should be aware of it. You should know when it's happening in your schedule and be prepared. Ensure your background looks mostly organized. You have a professional background. It's well lit. You have plenty of lighting. You're not like shadowy and in the shadows and dark. They can't really see you. That defeats the purpose of having your camera on. So we want to show up and make an effort to look presentable. And if you need a background, if your background, just generally speaking, is difficult to have a presentable background, I have downloadable backgrounds here you can use. You have to use one of the selected backgrounds that I have here that you can download. Right, and these are attached to the training. Go ahead and download them now along with the meeting agenda, and you can use these. I don't want other backgrounds, that I don't know what they're going to be, essentially. You need to make sure you're using a professional background or one that represents our company while you're working for me and you're on my team. If you have possible background noise, like if you're in a noisy area, then make sure you're using the mute button when you're not speaking to reduce interruption with the speaker. Ensure that you're thinking about these things in advance. You don't want to be in a noisy place when you're going to have a meeting. Be professional. Be aware. Go to a quiet place. Make sure you don't have a lot of noise. But if there's the chance of noise, then you want to be smart and just go ahead and mute maybe while the speaker's speaking to avoid interruption. So if someone's speaking, you have a question, it really is best to drop it into the Zoom chat while they're speaking, so you're not just over talking them or interrupting them. And maybe while they're speaking, if you have multiple questions, you could kind of type them out and put them in the chat while they're talking. So then that way the conversation doesn't go too far off track with interruptions and somebody doesn't lose their train of thought. And then you can kind of revisit the questions after they've laid out their train of thought. And maybe walk through those one at a time. When having discussions, use research to help move conversations forward. If you find yourself just saying, I don't know, that's unproductive. You're not being productive as a part of the meeting. You should be using your research skills, like using Google, looking something up on YouTube, seeing if you can find up-to-date information. If you're on a Zoom call, you should be on your computer and you should be able to Google something or research something. Avoid taking meetings on your phone, okay? Avoid taking professional meetings on your phone. It's not recommended. It's not professional. The internet service usually isn't as good as being on Wi-Fi at your workstation, so be aware of that. And it also hinders you from being able to research things or engage in the conversation in a professional manner and be productive, okay? In some cases, if you're on your phone, it defeats the whole purpose of the meeting if it's needed for you to share your screen because you can't do what you need to do on mobile that you do on your desktop. So ensure that when sharing screens, you don't have other tabs open for personal use, like your bank account or your personal email, or inappropriate use or inappropriate backgrounds. Like if you have a background screensaver or desktop background that's really inappropriate, don't let it be shown while you're on the Zoom call. Just change it or something, or don't even make it possible for it to be seen. You need to close these things out. You don't even want to accidentally show this stuff. You need to be professional. Ensure you're thinking about confidentiality. Even if you have a client that's with our company and their info is open on your screen or something, get rid of it, close it, minimize it, make sure it can't even accidentally come up. Because in some cases, we don't even share client information with other members of the team. Okay, so you have to be professional when sharing screens and be aware of what you know is on your screens, and make sure you're showing just what you need to show. I recommend opening a whole separate window with just what you need to show and work on and using that. You don't want to share screens and have 100 tabs open. It's very distracting. It looks unprofessional. It also eats up a lot of memory and bandwidth, and it slows down your browser, and all of a sudden everything slows down. Just close them. A lot of browsers will remember the tabs you had open, And also you should be using things like bookmarks, folders. Chrome can remember tabs that you have open. You can group them. If you just have tons of tabs open all the time, it can really slow things down. So I don't recommend that. In fact, it's required that you just have whatever you're going to share open in its own window. Be professional. Ensure that any follow-up items from the meeting that are promised are followed up on and made to happen. So you should maybe make notes during the meeting. If you need to follow up on something, make sure you make a note and follow up on it. Be presentable. Be even slightly early when you show up. So being like presentable means that you show up like groomed. Make sure that you're wearing, normal clothing or somewhat professional or business casual clothing, and then don't show up late. Don't be late because it creates a situation where then people have to stay late sometimes on the meeting. And this is, it's not considerate. The same rules for email apply to Zoom chats. Any attachments or PDF items, that are uploaded in the chat may need to be uploaded in the client ClickUp task. If it's regarding a client, you need to go into that task and upload those same attachments there. So be aware if somebody uploads an attachment or even you upload an attachment in a Zoom chat, that same attachment may be applicable to a ClickUp task for a client or task that needs to be done. If the nature of the meeting is important to other team members, ensure that the meeting is uploaded to the ClickUp task, like the recording of the meeting, or maybe to a Google Drive folder that's applicable to the meeting. Don't just throw it in a random one. Maybe upload it to the client file that it's related to. And then you can copy the Google Drive link from where you uploaded it, and then you can put it in the corresponding ClickUp task that it is related to. And that helps with ongoing reference, again, creating a knowledge base within ClickUp tasks of ongoing communications, including Zoom meeting recordings. This is really important that this is done. Sometimes other team members take care of this, but you need to ensure that this happens if you're not sure if other team members are going to do it, then you need to make sure it happens if there are specific action items spoken about in the meeting and there's specific things that need to be referenced. This helps take care of our clients and create a better situation where we have attention to detail for clients. So regarding professional communication points, as far as communicating, be respectful and polite. Use language like please, thank you, and you're welcome. Make sure you're being polite. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. This is warm, polite, and professional language. Avoid interruptive behavior like talking over other people. Like I said, use the Zoom chat to list out questions maybe. Another point of professionalism that's very important is do not get on meeting calls and simply begin raising problems and concerns or issues one after another. This is something that's highly unprofessional. It's not allowed. We're not getting on Zoom meetings to then lay out a series of problems one after another. When raising problems or issues, be sure to follow up with a recommended solution that you have to that problem, okay, or that issue. Or if you don't have one yet, try to open the conversations for ideas around problem solving before continuing on with more problems or issues. Simply listing problems or issues out is non-productive, inherently negative, and toxic. And so we're not getting on Zoom call meetings to simply lay out a series of problems and concerns one after another, because you have to address these things individually. It's okay to do that and to constructively lay out problems and concerns to handle them, but we need to do it in a constructive manner, which means immediately following up a problem or a concern with a recommended solution, or try to open the conversation to ideas and being open-minded to ideas being brought forward to bring some resolution to problems or issues. Okay, so be on time and be prepared. When you show up to the meeting, another point of professionalism there. If you need to, for some reason, if you show up late, you want to be discreet if there's other members. So if it's a meeting with more than one person, you want to discreetly show up to the meeting and then go ahead and just apologize in the chat Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't interrupt anybody. That's non-productive. So be attentive. This is a huge point, okay? And this is very important. An effective meeting is a fast meeting. An effective meeting means you can move through things being focused on the meeting and being focused on the conversation. Do not multitask or be doing other things while taking your meeting or while being on the Zoom meeting. Do not take meetings on your cell phone, like I said, and try to be doing other stuff while you're on your cell phone. Highly unprofessional. It just shows disrespect for the other people on the meetings. And it's rude and unproductive as well as unprofessional. So be attentive when you're on the meeting, be present on the meeting and be with the other person with your camera on, so that you can move through the nature of the meeting and handle it. The worst thing is to show up on a meeting with somebody who's constantly saying, wait, what? Or huh? Or I don't understand. Or can you say that again? It slows down the meeting and it's rude. Okay, so ensure that you're familiar with Zoom basics. Familiarize yourself with the platform if you're going to use it. Make sure you test it. You can do simple Zoom tests. So you know it's working on your computer. You know that your microphone is working. Your camera is working. You need to test these things and ensure that they're working. If you use your Zoom settings when you open Zoom, there are sections for your microphone and your camera where you can test them in the settings. This is so straightforward. I'm not even going to provide a training on this because you should just be able to do it if you're working for me in a virtual capacity. Using Zoom is very simple. And again, you can simply test it. You can open Zoom and then test it. Okay? So thanks for being on the training, and I look forward to seeing you maybe even on Zoom sometime soon. All right? Thanks.